All right, let's now also bring you our expert speak. Today our focus will be on property and taxes with Vinay Singh, the lawyer. Vinay, thanks very much for joining us today. I think, the big reason why we're doing this today is to check the status quo of that order which was passed by the Maharashtra government saying that it will not be mandatory for flat owners and housing society residents to get an NOC from builders while selling or transferring their property. It's been a while now, 2 or 3 months. Has it been action implemented? Could you give us the on-ground situation?
Well, Manisha, actually not really. The order itself was a bit strange because it was a direction to authorities like SIDCO and the Registrar's office not to insist upon the NOC. Well, in the first place, these authorities were never insisting or asking for the NOC. The ones who were asking for it were the banks and the housing finance companies who were lending money. So really this circular has had no impact whatsoever, and the ground reality is that even today builders are asking for NOC charges. Some of them have shifted from a per square foot basis to a percentage basis, but the fact is that this practice has not stopped. So something really needs to be done in this area, and I think I had mentioned earlier that perhaps the simplest way would be criminalize it. The minute you do that, lenders definitely will not ask for this any longer, and that will put an end to the practice. Builders, of course, is a different ball game altogether. Builders would love to continue to charge. In fact, if you see what CREDAI says in its model code of conduct for its own members, they say that, well, you can continue to charge this if it is there mentioned in your agreement. Now, when a builder puts something in the agreement, do you really think that the consumer has an opportunity to negotiate with the builder on the agreement? I don't think so.
Right. But I'm surprised, Vinay, that even CREDAI is not being able to put a stop to this practice. So you're saying that banks are still demanding NOCs from the loan seekers as well?
Absolutely. They are.
So there the authority or the note needs to be clearer?
Yes, in fact, the direction should go out, as I said, to the banks and to the lenders that please stop asking for this document. If, as the Chief Minister himself has said, that this is a wrong practice, well, put an end to it. Writing letters and circulars to SIDCO and Registrar's office is not going to help.
What's the road ahead? I mean, in all of this, it just seems that the consumer always gets squeezed, irrespective of somebody pretending or hoping to make a difference. The difference doesn't happen actually, Vinay.
Yes, the consumer is getting squeezed, Manisha, and there doesn't seem to be any easy way out of this. I mean, if you look at what the banks have been doing, they have started a practice, and now having started a practice, it's not very easy for them to shut down this practice. So they need a trigger. Something has to happen. So who's going to, give that trigger or just, sort this whole thing off? It can only be the government. Nobody else can do it.
All right. Do you think a regulator in place would help? Because where else do you go then?
Yes, absolutely. The regulator can help. For example, in Maharashtra, you have MOFA, the Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act. An amendment could be brought in that act clarifying that such a document cannot be asked for. There are many ways of tackling this, but the will must be there to do so.
All right. Well, all of us are praying that 2013, at least the industry gets a regulator. For the consumer is very, very critical. I have time to take one more question, Vinay. Prakash Hinduja has written into us. He says, I recently sold a residential land property. Can I invest the money I got from this property in a factory land and machinery? Is it allowed, if I have to actually set off the capital gains tax?
Well, if you want exemption from capital gains tax, you have 2 or 3 ways of doing that. One is that if you sell a residential house, you could get away by investing in another residential house. The other is that if you sell any asset other than the residential house, you could invest in a residential house your entire sale proceeds and then get an exemption for capital gains. The third option, of course, is that whatever kind of asset you sell, whether it's a residential house property or whether it is a gold or anything like that, you can invest the amount in capital gains tax bonds up to 50 lakhs per financial year and get away there also. However, if you are going to have gains from sale of a land, then investing it in a factory land is not going to help you save capital gains tax whatsoever.
Okay, Vinay, one more question. A very common one which we've been getting from our viewers is long-term gain tax calculated from the date of the allotment letter or date of registration of flat?
Well, Manisha, here what happens is there are two types of assets that we are looking at. The first asset is a right to acquire a house. So when you register the agreement or execute an agreement, you acquire a right to get the house. Now this may of course take a few years to materialize. So if this is an asset which you've held for 3 years without taking possession of the house and then you sell that off, that would qualify as a long-term asset, though it would not be a house property. The other option is that you get the house. Now once you've got the house, this would move to the possession date, and the 3-year period for long-term capital gains would be counted from the date of possession. So these are the two different ways that one has to look at the capital gains taxation on when you acquire a house.
Vinay, thanks very much for coming in and taking all those questions. So we do have a long battle ahead when it comes to doing away with the practice of getting an NOC from the developer, lenders still asking for it. Pleasure to have you with us on the expert side.